Submitted by Tristog27. Ever since I can remember, I have always been afraid of white utility vans with blocked out back windows. In 6th grade, I used to pick up my sister, who was in 1st grade, from school and then walk to the restaurant our mum worked at to hang out for a while and eat dinner while she was on shift. One day, as we were walking out of our apartment complex and approached the gate, one of these creepy vans pulled up and blocked off the gate. He was not trying to exit. He was purposely blocking our path. We slowed down. Then, the driver hopped out of the car and walked around to the passenger side, opened his back door, and then started coming towards us. I immediately freaked out, grabbed my sister's hand, and yelled, "Run!" We ran back to our apartment as the guy got back into his car and followed us. I locked us into the apartment, and my sister and I hid in our room and stayed really quiet. There was a knock at the door, and we both started crying. I called my mum, but since she was working, she didn't answer right away. Then I got the guts to look out of the window in the living room, and sure enough, the white van was parked outside. Later on, I spoke to my mum, and she didn't really believe me. When she got home, there was a piece of paper stuck in the door. No writing or anything on it. So strange. Anyway, creepy van guy, let's never meet again. Submitted by Tony Cipriani. To begin, I'm a 25-year-old male. My city does a local comic convention in the summer, which I usually make the point to attend with my friends. During the convention, I was pursuing the art gallery, switching between wondering how I could budget my next few months' living expenses and being caught in the money-spending rapture of con fever. While I was looking at a booth, a group of girls in RWBY cosplay approached me, and one who introduced herself as Jennifer struck up a conversation with me. Worth noting that the cosplay that they had on was fairly skimpy, and that they all wore heavy makeup, making it hard to distinguish age, but all appeared to be in their early 20s. Jennifer and I hit it off. She said that she was a second-year student at a major university in my state. We spent the day walking about the con. Laughs were had, and things seemed to be heating up. That evening, Jennifer invited me to her hotel to watch a movie. It crossed my mind how abrupt this was, but between the adrenaline from the con and genuinely feeling like I was enjoying my time with her, I dropped my guard. After all, cosplayers are harmless, right? We made it back to her room, and things are picking up. We are making out. She pulls away from me slowly and stares at me, whilst a Cheshire cat-like grin stretches across her face. In a squeaky and higher-pitched voice than she had been speaking to me previously, she giddily states, "By the way, I'm not legal," giggling as she says this, looking completely amused, as though she'd just given me a stand-up routine. The temperature in the room dropped at that moment. It felt as though time stood still. Finally, I managed to mutter a semi-coherent sentence about needing to use the bathroom before I made a swift exit out the door. I moved quickly to the elevator without looking back. From the end of the hallway, I can hear a mockingly cheerful, "Bye!" I continued on my way, not turning back once, swearing that I would be taking a long break from Comic-Cons. Submitted by Red Soap Bar. Hey Reddit, as many of these stories start out with, I am a longish time lurker, and I've had stuff happen to me that might qualify for this page. But here's one that happened today. I was biking around about 4:30 today, and I wanted to get a bit of coffee. Went to a shop, got a drink, all okay, except for the guy sitting on the other side of the room of me. He was wearing a black jacket and a bright neon yellow safety vest, even though it was still very light outside. But safety first, I guess. This outfit didn't strike me as odd because of the amount of bikers in my town. Most of them wear stuff like this. It did seem like though he was looking at me, but trying to hide it. Not very well. I buried my face in my phone, trying to seem as uninteresting as possible. Drank my coffee, then left. I was on my bike since it was a nice day, and so why not? I noticed him walking out the door around the same time I was leaving the bike rack and unlocking my bike, etc. I ended up going to a Safeway, not needing else specifically, just getting some Arizona tea and some skincare stuff. I buy everything, walk out, and there he is. There's a table outside that store, and he was just sitting there with a newspaper. He looked up, and he let out a short but loud "Ha!" Scared the shit out of me. I had turned my back to unlock my bike from the rack, but when I looked back, he wasn't looking at his newspaper anymore. It was like his vision was honed on me. I was afraid he would try to grab me or something. He looked back to his paper, folding it, and I hightailed out of there while he was occupied. Back to my house. I'm hoping he didn't try to follow me, but I'm scared he did. I'm also hoping it was just a coincidence that we were both in those places. Please, Neon Biker Man, let's not meet again. Submitted by Trash Candies. My mum was a single parent, and as such, she worked almost constantly and was nearly always tired as such. She was not the most present parent. Despite only being 2 years older than my sister, I was headstrong and insisted on acting as the man of the family, putting on a tough face and powering through things like comforting my sister when she had a nightmare so we didn't have to wake mum, etc. This happened while we were on a shopping trip. I'd say I was about 7, making my sister Alice about 5. She was a talkative child, always requiring someone's attention, and yet neither mum or I noticed that she had disappeared until we reached the checkout. Thinking that she simply had just gotten distracted and wandered off, mum wasn't too concerned, and I had volunteered to go get her. I walked past the aisles, peeking my head down, trying and spot her dark, curly hair and pink jumper, when I hear muffled crying and a woman trying to shush someone. Rounding the corner to investigate, I saw something chilling. A woman crouched down, desperately trying to quiet my crying sister with her hands, vice-like, on her wrist. Seeing me, the woman put on a smile and tried to shoo me away. "Don't worry, she just had a little fall." I vividly remember little 7-year-old me straightening up, puffing my chest to look tough as possible with a glare, and I spat out, "That's my sister." Her smile dropped and let go of Alice. I grabbed her and ran back to the front where Mum was waiting outside. She didn't seem too concerned about the lady. She was probably exhausted, to be honest. Despite the nail marks on my sister's arm, we just went home. I'm 21 now, so shopping child grabber, for your sake, let's not meet again. Submitted by Conifer Stance. Okay, so I met a guy on Tinder, and we talked for a bit and exchanged Facebooks. A couple of days of chatting later, and we met up in a public place near my house, and he seemed okay. Cute, not too weird, and into the same sort of things as me. However, as the day went on, it became clear to me, and I had assumed him, that we were better off as mates. At the end of the date, he walked me part the way to my house. Not to my door, as I didn't exactly want him knowing where I lived, and we parted ways. We didn't really talk much after that, just pleasantries and stuff. But anyways, a week later or so, I was chilling at home, chatting to a friend on the phone while my mum was asleep. I get a Facebook message from the Tinder guy. "Hey, I've left a gift for you outside your door." At that point, I was freaking the fuck out. It was like 2 a.m. and he'd walked all the way to my house. He told me he didn't drive and lived a couple of villages away. I was genuinely terrified for a couple of reasons. Firstly, I had no idea how he got my house number. Maybe it was on one of the messages. I know back then, sometimes, it would attach where you sent the message from. But anyways, it was creepy as fuck regardless. Secondly, I didn't know if he was still out there waiting for me. I couldn't see shit from my window because our street lights turned off at 12 a.m. So, still on the phone to my friend, I went downstairs and checked he wasn't still outside. I was too freaked out to open the door, so I went back upstairs and eventually got to sleep. It wasn't easy to, believe me. The next morning I opened the door to see this big fucking bunch of flowers with a romantic message attached. It was a harmless message, but still not okay to do. So, guy who thought it was okay to walk to my house in the middle of the night and leave me flowers, let's not meet. Also, maybe stop doing that sort of thing from now on. Submitted by Holla Kitty 95. This was when I was in 7th grade social studies. Mr. W was the school's most hated teacher, but no one ever explained why. I had him for 2 periods every day and noticed a routine with him. The front row was filled with busty girls, girls with low-cut shirts and ones that wore skirts or shorts. The back row was with girls that dressed like boys or had boyfriends. I was somewhere in the middle, so I never had an encounter with him up to that point. One day a friend of mine refused to go to his class, and I begged that I could ditch with her. She wouldn't tell me what happened. A few days passed when she told me that he rubbed her shoulders and would get uncomfortably close to her in class. I told her to tell someone, but she said she needed to pass his class. Well, that day came when he finally noticed me. I had inherently had an attitude with him because he was a creep. He would ask my friends and I, all females, to take down posters in our class, then sit in the chair behind us to supervise. I told him to shove off, which grossly enough intrigued him. So after that, he always bothered me. Stopping me in the halls, tell me that I need to stay after class to do a bit extra credit, failed me on quizzes even though I know I passed them, and tell me that I need to see him after class. A real wanker. Then the day came when the store broke, the camel's back. We were taking the quiz when he came back up behind my desk and kept flicking my hair around his pencil, then put his hands on my shoulders and said in my ear that I had soft hair. I stood up, shoved him, and yelled, "Don't touch my hair, you filthy perv!" As you can imagine, I received an in-house suspension for the rest of the year. He failed me, and I was excluded from all the school's functions. The scary thing was, 3 years later, I heard he was caught with his dick out, trying to get a female student to touch it. He was fired. Thank God, Mr. W. Let's never meet. Ever. Again. Submitted by Emergency XOX. So this occurred about 7 years ago, when I was 19. My best friend at the time and I, after a lot of saving, went on a trip to London and Paris by ourselves. The trip overall was amazing, except for one night. We had decided to go to a nightclub on Piccadilly Circus. We took a bus down by this area and our choice destination. While in the club, some men took interest in us and invited us back to their place. I got weird vibes from them. I also had a boyfriend at the time, so I decided I didn't want to go. My friend, however, was very stubborn on going, so after pleading with her for a bit, I gave up and decided to go back to the hotel by myself. I tried to take a bus, but it didn't work out, and not knowing how to find a taxi by myself, I decided to walk back. It was about 2 to 3 a.m. in the morning, but after having a few drinks, I felt courageous enough to find my way I had a map on me, but no phone. The walk wasn't so bad, except along the way, a man tried to invite me into the basement of a building he was caretaking. I promptly booked it down the street. It wasn't until 5 a.m. Yes, it took me 2 to 3 hours to find my way back that I ran into real trouble. It was starting to get bright, thankfully, but I noticed a van following closely near behind me. He eventually yelled out, asking if I needed a ride. And I said, no thanks, I'm good. But he was very persistent that I get in. So I took off running around a corner and hid behind a large bush. I was able to peep out my head, and I saw the van slowly going down the street looking for me. Of course he was blocking the way. I need to go back to the hotel. I was only a 2-minute run away. So I waited about 15 minutes, took a peek, and noticed he was gone. I gathered my courage and ran like hell back to the hotel. In the end, my friend was okay. She spent the night at the guy's house, and we both felt foolish for our choices and cried at the reunion.